I have a question and an observation. From Songs from the Second Floor, if you listen to the director's commentary on it, you discover that he has absolutely no idea what his film is about, and he reduces it to Swedish economics in the 90s. So anybody who wants to try to analyze this, I wouldn't ask Roy Anderson, because I don't think he understands his own work.
Well, a lot of that for him is kind of opposed to, I mean, he's that tradition of Stanley Kubrick and the Coen brothers, where he doesn't want to give the game away. I mean, the Coen brothers have never done a director's commentary, and Kubrick was famously asked about the obelisk in 2001. He said, it means whatever you want it to mean. He's one of these, because just from my incredibly uncomfortable and brief interaction with him, I could tell that he didn't want to say anything. And I like that the movie has gotten so many reactions from people here, that it's a comedy that makes you work. It's a comedy about discomfort. It's a comedy about misery.
What I mean is, I think it's on a broader scope than he's sort of the narrow obsessive focus, whatever he's trying to accomplish in each vignette, that it actually speaks to a larger condition. And my question for you guys is, there were a lot of dogs in this movie, which there aren't in Song from the Second Floor. I mean, what do you make of the dogs? Man's best friend? I mean, you know what?
Well, the dogs don't make anybody's life any better. I mean, the dogs, nobody relates to the dogs the way people relate to animals for comfort. You know, they're kind of being just, yeah, I mean, no, not a single instance you see anybody pet a dog or having a kind of normal relationship with the dogs, offer them some kind of emotional solace in all this misery. I mean, nothing makes anybody's life any better.
Yeah, I do love that one shot of the when you after this tightly controlled, milky, grim color palette, and then a beautiful bouquet of flowers. Wham! In the door. And then really the only dog on the planet that could have topped that, this horrible, mean dog down at the end of the hall, the German Shepherd or whatever. You know, yeah, I just think he's got a good. He casts dogs as well as human faces. I would urge you to read Dave Kerr's piece in the New York Times from a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, because he gets less dodgy and more, maybe to your taste, more specific or heartfelt about what he's up to as a writer-director. Check it out. Yes, down here.
I thought one of the things that was very interesting about the movie, one of the things that I thought the movie was about was kind of a failure to, or a barrier to communicate, people communicating with each other, like a constant failure to connect or hear one another. And
well, the only scene when you see happy people in this movie is it's only a dream scene when the girl thinks that she got married and she's happy. And,
yeah, but even she can't. Yeah, I mean, he doesn't really hear her. It doesn't look like he's even acknowledging her.
Yeah, they're not smooching or something. They're not jumping on the bed. No, that's very true. I mean, no, you're right. When you start the movie with somebody saying, you know, no one understands me. Yes, I do. You know, it sets that whole thing up that nobody thinks anyone else understands them. So even that poor professor and his son don't, you know, they can't even have a conversation all the way to the end of the phone. So I think you're right. Yeah, that's a.
So one person does understand somebody else. You know, when the barber shaves a stripe to the guy's head, he knows exactly what he's saying. That's a one time where that sort of that break with narcissism happens, and then that's really kind of. I mean, there's so many things that are set in motion here that you get the feeling that it's half really incredibly worked out, and a lot just sort of he finds an actor or more likely a face, and then puts that face in the movie. Just the sense of relief from that barber sitting in the coffee shop by himself afterwards. It's just so incredibly satisfying.
But then even the barber says, well, of course I had a fight with my wife. So it's not even just about the guy. So it's everything is, it's about angst between all kinds of couples. It just doesn't work for anybody just about in this movie.
Balcony?
I was going to, oh.
Please.
Another movie you picked for the final movie of a day is Synecdoche, New York. And somebody I was sitting next to observed that, or she said she thought that this movie was similar with Synecdoche, New York. And I was wondering, they both have very elaborate sets and a kind of grim tone to them. I was wondering what similarities you noticed between their two philosophies, you know, their views on human life and the human condition, and yeah.
We'll let Roger answer that, but we'll kind of vamp until ready. That's a good question, and I'd like to know if honestly what Roger's got to say about that too. I find of the two, I think Kaufman's. That's gonna be. I wish I could stay around for that screening because that is such a genuine audience splitter. I like that film a lot, Synecdoche, New York, and that's another one that strikes some people as impossibly grim, and many others as really quite wonderful and hopeful in a way, or I guess just wise enough to mitigate some of the sadder observations in it. Please.
No similarities have occurred to me.
I mean, there certainly is the notion of being trapped and people with obsessions, but that one's so much more about artifice, Synecdoche, so much more about artifice and a certain, more, so I think this one's so displaced across a whole culture and a society as opposed to Synecdoche with one person. So I think, there's the trapped notion and the sets, but yeah, they're very, very different worlds.
But also really, that kind of sense of doomed repetition, that you can't get out of this sort of cycle of a sort of misery and that sort of sense of being trapped in yourself, of being like a victim of your own narcissism, seems to unite those two movies.
Okay, how are we doing on time? Are they?
Oh, over here.
Okay, good. Couple more. Okay, one here, and then we'll go over here.
Oh, yeah. I was also thinking it had some Jim Jarmusch or Todd Solondz influence too, and also I agree with Elvis Mitchell. The use of depth of field is really interesting. The exaggerated foreground and vanishing points, really interesting.
So Jarmusch, as in like Stranger Than Paradise or something, yeah, where the camera just sits there and every scene is separate. You're right, there is a Jarmusch feel, and almost like Wim Wenders in some shot composition too.
Yeah, but still, the Jarmusch stuff is so close to birth. I mean,
Go ahead.
One thing I really liked about this was a big sense of voyeurism, really. I noticed how the camera was pretty far back, kind of disconnected with everybody, and you kind of just found yourself looking in on each event. And what really made it funny is just trying to figure out exactly why they're doing the things they're doing, because it's really not that strange of things. Sometimes they're just talking or just gathering around. It's just figuring out what they're doing, why, just looking in on it, and that's what I think is probably what makes this film so funny, I think.
Yeah, in the same way that I mean, I always relate everything to Chekhov because I love him, but as Chekhov said, only those who are married know what it's like to be truly alone, and I think that's the source of a lot of this humor, tragic as it all is. But
balcony.